Across the sun-scorched horizon of ancient Egypt, a massive labor force toils under a king who sees them only as a threat. Fearing the growing number of Israelites, Pharaoh has transformed a migrant population into a resource of forced labor. The oppression is physical and relentless. Taskmasters enforce a quota of mortar and brick that leaves no room for rest. The Israelites find their lives defined by the bitter weight of service in the fields and the construction of Pharaoh's store cities, Pithom and Ramses. When labor fails to break their spirit, the decree turns lethal. Pharaoh commands that every newborn Hebrew son be cast into the Nile River, a systematic effort to ensure the people of Israel have no future. The Israelites are trapped in a cycle of state-mandated death and physical exhaustion. They have no political leverage and no means of revolt. This state of bondage is so complete that their only hope lies in a power residing entirely outside the Egyptian system. The man chosen to lead this people out of bondage is not a traditional hero, but a fugitive. After witnessing an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, Moses strikes the man down and hides the body in the sand, attempting to bury his crime. When his actions are discovered, Moses flees the justice of Pharaoh. He travels into the land of Midian, trading his status for the life of a shepherd. For 40 years he remains in this desert, far removed from the suffering of his people. This quiet life is interrupted at the base of Mount Horeb. Moses encounters a burning bush that is not consumed by its own flames. From the fire, God declares that he has seen the affliction of his people and has come down to deliver them. Moses responds with a list of personal failures and inadequacies. He questions why he, a man with no standing, should go to Pharaoh. God responds by revealing his identity as the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the one true authority over the many man-made gods of the Egyptians. By selecting a fearful murderer to execute this rescue, God demonstrates that the deliverance of his people depends on his power rather than the resume of the deliverer. After 9 plagues fail to move Pharaoh's heart, God announces a final, devastating judgment. At midnight, the firstborn of every household in Egypt will die, from the throne of Pharaoh to the lowest slave. To be spared, the Israelites must follow specific instructions. This diagram shows the required sacrifice, a 1-year-old male lamb or goat, verified to be without blemish. On the 14th day, the lamb is slaughtered. Its blood is applied to the 2 doorposts and lintel of the house. The meal is eaten in haste. The lamb is roasted whole, served with unleavened bread and bitter herbs. The families must be fully dressed for a journey, sandals on their feet and staffs in their hands, leaving nothing remaining by morning. The blood serves as a sign. When God passes through to strike the land of Egypt, the sight of the blood will cause the plague to pass over that house, shielding those inside from the lethal judgment. The mechanic of the Passover is substitution. An innocent, unblemished life is taken so that the residents of the house are spared from the judgment they would otherwise share with Egypt. The ancient captivity in Egypt serves as a physical mirror for a universal human condition. In Romans 3:23, the scope of slavery expands to include everyone, defining sin as a state of being that falls short of God's glory. The penalty for this condition is outlined in Romans 6:23. Just as the 10 plague brought death to Egypt, the wages of sin is spiritual death, a permanent separation from the life of God. The New Testament identifies Jesus Christ as the completion of the Passover requirements. 1 Corinthians 5 explicitly names him as the Passover lamb who has been sacrificed for us. This identification relies on his nature. Just as the ancient lamb had to be without blemish, Peter describes the blood of Christ as that of a lamb without spot, referring to his life of total sinless perfection. His sacrifice on the cross functioned as the spiritual shield. His blood provides the covering that allows God's judgment to pass over the individual, offering a way out of the cycle of sin and death. The result is a transition from slavery to life. Through this finished work, the rescue plan initiated in the desert of Midian finds its final expression in the gift of eternal life through Christ. Being rescued changes the identity of the person saved. Paul tells the church in Corinth that they no longer belong to themselves, but were bought at a price, referring to the cost of the sacrifice that freed them. This rescue is commemorated through communion. On the night he was betrayed, Jesus took the bread and the cup, instructing his followers to repeat these actions in remembrance of his body and his blood. This act requires a moment of internal audit. Believers are instructed to examine themselves and confess their sins before participating, ensuring they recognize the gravity of the blood that covers them. Eating the bread and drinking the cup is an active proclamation. It serves as a recurring public statement of the Lord's death and the new covenant until he returns. But a question remains for the daily life of the believer. What happens when a person who has been rescued falls into sin once again? The answer lies in the current state of the deliverer. 1 John 2 describes Jesus as an advocate with the Father. He is not merely a historical figure, but a resurrected, living presence who intercedes on behalf of his people. He is the propitiation for sins, the atoning sacrifice that continually satisfies the justice of God. This means the protection offered by his blood is not a one-time event, but a permanent standing for those who trust in him. The objective of this entire work is freedom that lasts. As the Gospel of John concludes, the liberation provided by the Son is not partial. If he sets you free, you are free indeed.